Well, good morning and welcome back to CityLine. With me, I have a fabulous, warm individual who is here to talk about the South Sound Heart and Stroke Walk. So please join me in welcoming Holly Martindale. You are a registered dietitian and a dietitian with CH Franciscan Health. Welcome, my dear.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Good to have you here. We were just kind of chit-chatting before the break about stroke and cholesterol and how important it is to shape your life around that kind of information. So let's just get into it. Okay. So cholesterol is and has been an important indicator of heart health, and everybody should know their individual numbers. So let's back up for a bit and let's talk about what exactly is cholesterol.
So cholesterol it's a waxy substance that's made by the body, and it can build up on the inside of your arteries and cause a narrowing, and that narrowing is what puts you at risk for heart attack or stroke.
Okay, so it's kind of like that putty stuff that just basically gets in there, and it's like, okay, then we have a hard time breathing, a hard time thinking.
The blood has a hard time getting through.
And blood is life. Blood carries everything to all of our vital organs.
Right. Yeah.
So there's two types of cholesterol, and this can be confusing. I remember when I first learned about it, I was like, what do you mean? And I actually thought there was actually two separate types of cholesterol. So explain how they're different.
So there are a few different types of cholesterol, and I think when you get your numbers back, it can be confusing. So when you're looking at your numbers, your HDL, that's actually your good cholesterol.
Oh, good graphic.
Yes, and that shows the HDL is kind of like a protector. It helps prevent that buildup from happening. So we want a lot of good cholesterol working for us.
It's kind of like the oil in the engine. It's the lubricant.
Well, it actually is a protector, yeah.
Okay.
And so we want an increase in HDL, and the LDL, that's your bad cholesterol. That's the kind that we see building up on the inside of the artery walls and causing that narrowing. So when you're looking at your numbers, we want less LDL and more HDL.
Good to know that. So how is your cholesterol, first off, measured? And then how often should you have it checked?
So your cholesterol, your primary care physician usually will have, it's a blood test they'll order for you. And you want to have that checked after the age of 20, generally every 4 to 6 years, but sometimes more frequently if you have family history or depending on your medical conditions.
Okay, it's like, for instance, I have a history in my family of diabetes, of heart attack. My sister passed away at the age of 43 from a stroke. Wow. So for me, or for my daughter is 26. So I would imagine that her primary care physician would look at all of that and perhaps make a recommendation to have her come in more often than that 4 to 6 year mark.
Absolutely. Yeah. Sometimes you'll have it checked within a year. If your cholesterol is high, they might check it every 6 months. So it is definitely dependent on your medical history, your family's history.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what are some of the key things we can do to keep our cholesterol numbers in a healthy range? And we want to also get to what that healthy range is.
So some of the things you can do, well, first of all, what's in your control is for sure making better food choices.
Yes.
And I think focusing on heart-healthy foods like vegetables, legumes, beans, lentils, increasing nuts and seeds, more fish in the diet. We hear about that all the time. And also having healthier oils. That's some of the things you can include in your diet to really help decrease your risk. Being more physically active really helps as well. And that's sort of where we're talking about the heart and stroke walk and getting more physically active. Taking your medications like you're supposed to. And then also if you're a smoker, quitting, it makes a huge difference in your cholesterol numbers, yeah.
I bet it does. I bet that's just unbelievable in the sense of, because smoking impedes your ability to breathe, it affects your blood, it affects everything about you.
And it does increase your cholesterol as well.
Wow, okay, so in addition to it just being really bad for you, it also triggers cholesterol.
And it destroys those good cholesterol numbers.
Ooh.
Yeah, so we don't want that.
Okay, so let's talk about cholesterol in our diet. So we've talked about vegetables, we've talked about fruits, legumes, nuts, fish. So we're missing one thing, and that's those fats. And that seems to be that one thing that people either scratch their head or they misinterpret. So what should we avoid in terms of fats? What are the good fats, Holly, and what are the bad fats?
So the good fats, the things you want more of in your diet, are things like the unsaturated, monounsaturated fats that come from nuts and seeds. Avocados is a great source.
Yes.
Yeah. Olive oil, pure olive oil, avocado oil, avocados themselves, and then fish also is an excellent source of good fats.
The omega-3s in there. Okay, all right.
And then our bad fats, the things that we want to really decrease in our diet, not only are fats, but also sugary processed foods and beverages. Processed meats have this fat that can increase your risk for heart disease, and also deep fried foods. We want to limit those.
Is that a trans fat that we're talking
So
about?
trans fat is a little different. That's
Okay.
actually a hydrogenated fat, and that is something that we consider a bad fat, and we want to limit in the diet as well. And that can be found in a lot of baked goods in the bakery section of the grocery store.
And margarine.
Margarines sometimes can have it. Stick margarines, yes.
Yeah, all of that. So knowing the South Sound Heart and Stroke Walk, I know that on your website you probably have so many links to lists of things that we could, if you're like me, you put it on the fridge. So, when you're making your list to go wherever you need to go to get your weekly groceries, you can go, okay, I need to pick up these good fats, or to go and to look at your cabinet and to say, I shouldn't have this in here.
Exactly. And meal planning, thinking about what are you going to eat, how are you going to get those vegetables and nuts and seeds as your snacks, and what you're going to pack. So when you want to have those lists in front of you, and that is available on the website. And also there'll be information about that. There'll be booths at the walk on September 22nd.
So let's talk about the walk. You mentioned, of course, physical activity helps manage cholesterol, actually helps reduce that. We do know that. So what can we expect at this event? And we have some pictures we're going to show as well.
Okay. Well, I think this is just a community event, a way to be physically active in your community, which I think is really fun. And I'm thankful that CHI and the American Heart Association put on community events like this, bring everybody together, showing that physical activity can be fun and it's social. And the walk will have a lot of booths and information. They'll have a kids zone. It's very family friendly. We want everyone to bring their families. You can bring your dogs.
Yay! Since dogs walk and we walk our dogs.
That's right. Yeah, so I think this is a fun event to kind of get us active in the community.
So, Holly, in your experience with this walk, how many repeat offenders do you hear often have been doing this for years and bring their own teams and are just superstars at this?
There's a lot of that, and I think that's what's fun about it. People will get T-shirts made, so their whole group's wearing the same T-shirt. You meet people that have been coming for many years. You hear stories. A lot of survivors attend this, and hearing their stories is always inspiring.
I bet. I can just imagine, because, it becomes a family, doesn't it, after a while, of people who have survived and are here to talk about it. And then there's also just the sad flip of the coin of those who don't survive, and they become a living legacy and a lesson to all the rest of us, like my sister did for me.
That's right.
Of how to live my life, and to know that I know that last year heart attack and stroke were still the #1 killer in America. And that just amazes me, Holly, because that's the one thing we can control.
Exactly.
It's not to downplay any other disease, but when other diseases come into play that are mysteries, we don't know how we got them, we have no family history. This is pretty cut and dried to me. Do you feel the same way?
Well, I do. I feel like this is something you have control over.
Yes.
You can make a difference when you find out your cholesterol is high. it's not, like you have no control. You actually, there's so many steps and things you can do to prevent it from progressing and becoming into something like a heart attack or stroke. We actually have the control, and I think that's exciting, and it gives us hope, and it's motivating.
It is.
Yeah.
So if I were someone who was watching right now and I had somebody in my life who I feared had high cholesterol, I think I would bring them to this walk, because I know you have health screenings, don't you?
We have a lot of information.
Yeah, a lot of information there. And I would just have them stroll with me, maybe get them a Starbucks or a Tully's or any kind of local coffee, an Anthem or something. And then I would stroll them over to one of these educational areas and see if I could get them to start addressing their cholesterol. Because sometimes it's so hard when we are the closest ones, but if we can have somebody who's an expert position, it comes across much better, doesn't it?
It does. I think so.
It does.
And there will be a lot of information. And even if they can just gather a few things that they can take home, and maybe that'll put them in the right direction.
Yeah. Who do we need to thank for all this fabulous, heartfelt goodness?
Well, I think the sponsors, CHI Franciscan, American Heart Association, put this on. So I want to thank them and the volunteers and all the people that it takes to put this kind of activity together. Really is an effort, and it's appreciated.
It is. And I want to say thank you to you and to all of your team that can't fit on the couch, that's there invisible, out the hallway and out the doorway, because this doesn't happen overnight. This happens every year, and as soon as you're done, you start planning again. And thank you for loving us so much and taking care of our hearts, because we have so much more life to give, and it starts with knowing your numbers and making the best of what you have. So, Holly, thank you for being part of the solution.
Welcome. Thanks
my
for
pleasure.
having me.
Oh, my pleasure. I'll see you next year. Okay.
Okay, great.
All right. When we come back, talc will be in the house, and it's not a powder. It's Tacoma Area Literacy Council is here to talk about their program. You don't want to miss that. We'll be right back.